So again, our focus for the exam will be on 24.1 and 24.2. So the first thing that you guys need to do is there are going to be 30 multiple choice and 10 true false. Again, 30 multiple choice, 10 true false. Sections 24.1 and section 24.2. In section 24.1 and 24.2, make sure that you review all the diagrams. Look at all the diagrams, all the figures, all the tables. Okay? All diagrams, all figures, all tables. The other thing you want to do is in your notes, in our guided notes, review all aspects of our guided notes, and then also look at all pictures, figures, tables, and diagrams, okay? So now what I want to do is kind of give you an overall general focus of things that you need to know. Make sure you understand how body plans evolved and adapted. Okay, how did body plans evolve and adapt from invertebrates to vertebrates? Review how heterotrophs get their food. How do heterotrophs get their food? Therefore, you need to know the difference between an autotroph and a heterotroph. What does a farnagal gill pouch develop into? We reviewed that the farnagal gill pouches in organisms ultimately become different things in different organisms. So look at what farnagal gill pouches become in fish, in amphibian, in humans, and animals. Make sure you are able to review the illustrations of farnagal gill pouches. I gave you illustrations in both your notes and in the textbook. There are illustrations of what a farnagal gill pouch looks like. You'll have to be able to identify that. Review the 4 types of animal tissues. In your tables that we took, review the characteristics of mollusks. What feature do mollusks have? So look at our table and look at all the different characteristics that we went over for mollusks. What separates chordates from other organisms? So what special features, what special things do chordates have that other organisms that are not chordates don't have? Review the phylum that a roundworm belongs to. What is a feature that vertebrates have that non-vertebrates don't have? Or rephrasing that, what are features that vertebrates have that non-vertebrates do not have? Differentiate between an endoskeleton and an exoskeleton. So what are the benefits of having an endoskeleton? What are the benefits of having an exoskeleton? And make sure you know the difference. Compare and contrast the different types of symmetry. We have bilateral symmetry, we have radial symmetry, and we have asymmetry. Remember, asymmetry means that there is no symmetry. Describe one advantage, or describe advantages of sexual reproduction, and describe advantages of asexual reproduction. So you make sure you are able to compare and contrast. Review the characteristics of the jellyfish group. All of the different characteristics in our tables. Again, I'll keep referring back to the tables that we took. That's going to be very important for you guys to review. Make sure you study thoroughly those tables. What are the advantages of having an opposable thumb? What are advantages of having an opposable thumb? Compare the different types of hearts. The 2-chamber heart with the 3-chamber heart with the 4-chambered heart. Make sure you know the benefits of having, or make sure you know the features of each type of heart and the benefits of being or having a 4-chambered heart compared to the other ones. Be able to define homeostasis. Homeostasis. Explain which group or which characteristics that jaws and limbs belong to. Which animal group have features such as jaws and limbs? You know, limbs like arms and legs and stuff like that. Again, look at all of the different animal groups that we've covered. You know, the annelids, the cnidarians, all of the different animal groups that were in the chart. The sponges, which are also called the porifera. Compare and contrast the digestive systems of various organisms. So on the chart that we covered, it went over the different kinds of digestive systems. Make sure you are familiar with the digestive systems that invertebrates would have versus what vertebrates would have. Make sure you study the tissue lining diagrams. Okay, tissue lining diagrams. If you recall, we talked about things like ectoderm, mesoderm, okay, endoderm. Make sure you are able to recognize those on a diagram if you see it, such as the pictures that we studied in our notes and that you read about. Review the characteristics that all amphibians have. In particular, make sure that you're reviewing the chart that we went over for vertebrate animals and amphibians in particular. Make sure you go over the features that reptiles have. So we're going to study the characteristics of reptiles in the chart that we took notes on. Study the characteristics of birds in the chart that we took notes on and other items, including in the reading. Differentiate between prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Review the cladograms that we went over in chapter 24 that show the evolutionary relationships between invertebrate animals and vertebrate animals. Okay, remember the cladograms are those branching diagrams. Make sure you study those and understand what they detail. What type of tissue do lungs develop from? Make sure you can identify what a nerve cord looks like. So study any picture in chapter 24 that discusses and covers what a nerve cord looks like. Remember, the nerve cord is going to ultimately become the spinal cord and is part of chordates and a part of the backbone as well. Review characteristics of land vertebrates. Okay, land vertebrates include, reptiles. Amphibians are land vertebrates as well. Mammals, birds, okay, just to give some examples. Again, review all of the characteristics of a chordate. One of the characteristics is a backbone and a nerve cord. Make sure you are familiar with the phylums, including Porifera, Mollusca, Annelida, Platyhelminthes. These are all the invertebrate animals we covered. And the chart, again, I'll keep referring back to it because the chart breaks down the phylums and it gave you the different symmetry and the different characteristics. That's going to be a very useful tool for you guys for the test. Okay, review what features scientists use to classify animals. Okay, do they look at what features? Do they look at the embryos? Do they look at the body plans? What are the characteristics that scientists use to classify animals and put them into groups? Make sure that you understand what phylum snails and clams belong to. These are some of the animal examples we went over when we looked over your charts and stuff. Review the type of symmetry that an organism like a lobster would have, or crab. Approximately how many animals on the planet are invertebrates? Approximately how many animals on the planet? You don't have to have an exact number, but what percentage of organisms on the planet fall into the invertebrate category? What percentage of organisms on the planet fall into the vertebrate category? Be able to know what a cnidarian is. Okay, that's one of the type of organisms we talked about, one of the invertebrates. And what are some of the features that cnidarians have? Again, make sure you understand the difference between autotrophs and heterotrophs. Make sure you understand what phylum an earthworm belongs to. Study and review the arthropods. Okay, make sure you know the arthropod group, all of the different features, all the characteristics. Remember insects and things like that, millipedes, centipedes, all of those kind of organisms, spiders, scorpions, they belong into that group. What separates them? The amount of legs, right? So make sure you understand, which ones are going to have 6 legs, which ones are going to have 8 legs, which ones are going to have 10 legs. Differentiate between the dorsal side of an animal and the ventral side. What's the difference between the ventral side and the dorsal side? Why is cephalization so important for animals? Cephalization. Why is cephalization so important for animals? What role does diffusion play for aquatic animals? What role does diffusion play for aquatic animals? And what do I mean by that is that what role does that play as they're getting oxygen, consuming food, getting rid of waste products? Again, guys, there are 30 multiple choice, 10 true false approximately. Make sure you review all diagrams and figures and tables, etc. in sections 24.1 and 24.2. The other sections will not be on the test, so you don't have to focus on those. 2 sections. Thoroughly going over invertebrate animals. And I'll just keep reinforcing that the tables and the diagrams and all that stuff that we studied and reviewed are going to be very important.